Hey, what's up? It's Brian Knudson with GolfWRX, and I just want to say that GolfWRX was a huge influence on me getting into club building. I joined the site back in 2006 just because I wanted to learn how to regrip my clubs. I didn't want to take it somewhere, didn't want to wait, didn't want to pay, wanted to do it myself. So from that journey, it's turned into kind of a wild addiction of club building and tinkering and messing around with clubs. And I've learned a ton through a bunch of GolfWRX members as well as other friends in the golf community. And I always get questions about from people asking, how do you do this? How do you build this? How do you adjust this? Just a bunch of club making questions, which I love, and I love talking to people and answering it through DMs on Instagram and things like that. But it made me think, why not make a series of videos doing all these things that people ask about? And I know you can go on Google and Google something, and there's probably a YouTube video about it already. But I figured why not go through, break down what you need, the bare minimum for certain projects, all that, and we'll get from something super simple like today, just doing a quick regrip, to a little more advanced stuff, building the swing weights and things like that, pulling broken shafts, whatever. So I'm going to run these throughout the whole year. There might be like one every other week, maybe 2 weeks in a row, who knows, but I'm going to try to do basically one every other week for the rest of the year. So it's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy it. Hopefully, maybe you guys will take something away and learn from it as well. If you have any comments, any ideas of things I should cover, please hit me up on Instagram at Club Junkie Pod, and let's make some cool videos and teach you guys some stuff. And I'll even learn some stuff. It'll be great. So today we're going to go over gripping a golf club. And it's one of the things, like I said, that got me into club building. I just didn't want to pay somebody to put grips on. I didn't want to wait. I wanted to do it when I had time or when I was ready or when I got a new club or when a grip just needed it. So the first thing I learned was regripping. So I'm going to take you through the most basic form of it. I know there's 1,000 ways to kind of put a grip on or take a grip off or do whatever. I'm going to try to show you the basic things of what you need, how to do it, and then hopefully you can kind of go on your own, regrip your own clubs, and no longer wait for somebody to get a new grip on your club. So let's get into what you need first. So the first thing you're going to need is a vise. Well, actually, I think the first thing you're going to need is a workbench or a spot where you can mount a vise, where you have enough length to put a full golf club with a grip on the end. I know it's kind of, you don't really think about that when you get a workbench, but you do need space for a driver. And a driver is typically, from end to end, it's going to be between 46 and 50 inches, depending on how long you play it and all that. So you definitely need more space than you can kind of think of. So you definitely need a few feet for the head of the golf club to go beyond the vise this way, and then you need the grip to go that way. So definitely make sure you have enough space. I always say the bigger the space, the better. If you think it's too big, it's probably not. But once you have a workbench or a table or something that's pretty sturdy, because you will be pushing a grip on, once you have that, you just need a vise, a basic vise. This is I think I got it at Lowe's. It's just a 4.5-inch Irwin vise, nothing special, just pretty simple. I want to say it was 45 or 50 bucks at the time. But this vise is going to be used for a lot of stuff in golf. But a vise is kind of necessary for doing a lot of golf equipment repairs and things like that. You can mount your shaft puller in there. A rubber shaft clamp in here can hold a club in a variety of ways to do different kinds of work. But a vise is like essential. They make quick release vices as well that mount that have a little handle you can flip up. That's fine too. But like I said, you don't have to go crazy. Something really simple like this. Like I said, this is a 4.5-inch Irwin vise. You could probably even go a little bit smaller. This is just kind of what I saw there and what I grabbed. I probably could have went a little smaller. And I've got this directly bolted into my workbench, which is just 3/4 MDF plywood. So nothing crazy, nothing too heavy. The next thing you need is a rubber shaft clamp. Now you can get these just about anywhere. You can go to your local golf shop, golf store, even big box stores like Golf Galaxy and places like that have these. These are simple rubber shaft clamps. They're made of rubber. They attach a shaft in between them, and they're really, I think they're pretty cheap. The last time I bought a couple, I think they were like $1.99 each. No idea what they are now, but pretty inexpensive. You can use it for a lot of different things. But a rubber shaft clamp you need there. The next thing you need would be grip solvent. There's going to be a bunch of different versions of these. If you are inside a basement like I am, you may want to look at the non-toxic versions. There's some that have less kind of odor to them. There's other ones that do have an odor that are probably a little more toxic. So you just got to depend on what you're doing. If you're doing it more outdoors or in a garage somewhere it's more ventilated, you can get away with those. Those tend to, in my opinion, be a little more slick. The non-toxic, non-smell ones, they're not quite as easy to get grips on. But this bottle I've had for about probably 20 years, and I just keep putting new solvent in it. But it's got a little spout that makes it easy to get the solvent inside of a grip. So if you can find one that has a little nozzle or some type of little nozzle you can get into a grip, that would be preferred. Then you need grip tape. And again, there's a couple different versions of this. I like to use the 2-inch double-sided grip tape. Now they make 1-inch stuff, they make a bunch of different sizes, a bunch of different rolls. I typically like the 2-inch stuff because I can run this down the shaft, fold it over, and it covers up pretty much the whole shaft of the club. Some people like the little thinner stuff, and they do like a wrap throughout the shaft. That's fine, but like I said, I like the 2-inch stuff because it covers the whole shaft pretty easily, and it's pretty simple to just run a line of it, cut it off, and you're all set to go. The other thing you'll need is a shaft or a knife with a hook grip or a hook blade. The hook blade helps get these grips off, and they don't damage the shafts, especially when you're cutting grips off graphite shafts. This allows you not to cut into the shaft or into any of or damage the shaft in any way while still pulling the grip off. So the hook blade is a big part of doing regrips, especially pulling grips off your old clubs. Then you need, or I suggest, having like an old towel, just something to wipe up some of the solvent, wipe it off the shaft, wipe it off the grip when you're done. I use an old golf towel that I had. I think the carabiner or whatever that held it on a bag ripped off, so I have no other use for it, but it's turned into a great shop towel that I use to wipe up solvent and things like that. And then you just need a grip. Whatever your grip is going to be, I'm going to use this cheap Geo Leap that I bought off Amazon just to try out. They're not great grips. I don't really recommend them, but I've got a few left, so I'm going to use it today because we're just throwing the grip on. But these are the essential things you need. And I know if you look, I have kind of a small catch basin for mine, but I'm doing mine in the basement so I don't let the solvent just get all over. When I first started doing grips, I was doing them out in the garage, and I would literally just let the solvent fall on the garage floor. It was just cement. It evaporated pretty quickly, and I wasted some solvent, but that was it. But these are the basic things you need. And yes, you could probably do slightly different. I've heard of people using like kerosene and things like that. I've never messed with that stuff. Just use grip solvent. But these are the basics that you need. And if you buy this stuff, you'll be able to do quite a few sets of grips on your own. So these things, once you buy them, other than the tape and the solvent, the rest of it you'll just have forever and be able to use on the next set of grips whenever you do them. So that is everything that you need. So once you have your club, this is an old wedge I just had laying around, you're going to take your rubber shaft clamp and you're going to snap it onto the shaft of the club, like so. So you're just going to have the shaft clamp around the shaft, open up your vise, and lock it in. Now it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up or anything like that, as long as it's tight enough to hold the club is all you need. And since we're cutting the grip off, I'm not even lining up the club. It doesn't really matter. And then what I'm going to do is actually pull some of this grip back and use the hook blade to start the cut. And then that way I'm not digging into the shaft or causing any marks where a new shaft may not maybe go down as far and leave some of this exposed. I don't want big scratches or anything like that in there. So I kind of pull the shaft, the grip back and cut it as I pull. Once you get going, this is a steel shaft, so if you just want to kind of pull everything back, you can cut right through it. And then be careful because you are kind of cutting towards yourself. I know I've gotten a few comments about people saying don't cut towards yourself. I don't kind of rip it all the way through and then just peel back the grip and pull it off. And then you have a grip, you just toss that part. And then it's kind of the interesting thing of removing the tape, which you can do a few different ways. And I'll kind of show you my favorite way, which you may or may not have the tools to do. Peeling it off just works. I like to kind of start a lot of times down at the butt end, take your knife, your hook blade, dig it into the tape that's on there, and that'll kind of start, and you can start pulling the tape off. The old tape is probably the most tedious part of getting a club ready to regrip. It just takes a little while. There's a lot of tape. Like this one looks like it's got a couple wraps on it. So it does take a little while if you don't have a torch to heat it up, but I'll show you the torch method here as well. So the other way to do this is with a torch. Now I've got kind of a propane torch that I use for a lot of club building, and what you can do is heat up the tape to loosen the stickiness of it, the glue on it, and peel it off. You could probably do this with like a hairdryer or heat gun as well, because the trick is, especially if you have a torch, is you want to heat it up, but you don't want to burn the paper. So you want to just get it to the right level. And I want to thank, I learned this over at the boys at Fujikura who taught me how to get these grips on with a flame. So like I said, you just want to kind of rotate it through and heat it up. And the key is, I used to try to do this and I would burn the tape and it would never come off, or it would come off in small chunks and it would just be hot. So basically you want to just heat it up with a torch. You don't want it to get brown. If the tape's getting brown, then you've got it too warm. But you could, like I said, do this probably with a hairdryer, do this with a heat gun, something like that if you have it. Then once you have it heated up, you find a spot. Be careful because it can be kind of hot depending on how much heat you gave it. You find a spot and it starts peeling off in much larger chunks. So this one actually has about 3 layers of tape, so it's been built up 3 times. So this one's going to take a little bit, but thankfully it's pretty good quality tape. The problem you'll run into is some tapes, especially from some OEMs, are pretty rough, and getting them off in big chunks is not easy. So like I said, I'm pulling those off in pretty big chunks. It's coming off pretty easy. Like I said, if you don't have a torch or a heat gun, go borrow borrow somebody's hair dryer, either yourself, neighbor, maybe a parent, something like that, and then you're clean. So that is the easiest way to do it. Add a little heat, loosen up some of the glue on here, and it peels off way easy. If you don't have any access to that, you can, of course, peel it off, but it's going to come off in little pieces. It's going to take a while. You can do it. It's just going to take a little bit longer. So once you got this off, let's toss it back in the vise and put the grip back. All right, so after we got the tape off, you want to slap your shaft clamp back on, put your club in your vise, tighten it just a little bit, because what you want to do is you want to actually rotate the face to make sure the score lines, the actual grooves in the face, the scoring lines, are actually 100% straight up and down. So you want to make sure they're fully vertical. Don't look at any part of the club, the leading edge, anything like that. Just look at the actual grooves in the club. Get those perfectly straight up and down, and that way you'll know the club is straight in the vise. So some people, some of the fancier rigs will have lasers and things like that. I don't have any of that. Some people also maybe put like a vertical line on the back wall where they can kind of line it up as well. But just line this up where those actual grooves are straight up in the air, and that way you'll know the club is in straight. Once it's in there, then give it a little extra turn to make sure it's tight, so it's not going to move anywhere when we put tape and the grip on. Now we want to put the tape on the club, and what you want to do is take your grip, kind of set it against the shaft, and just remember the butt end is probably about between 1/4 and 1/8 inch thick, so that's going to come off. So don't put it up to here. Move it back a little bit. The very front of the grip doesn't have to have full piece of tape all the way to the end. That part will still be fine. So what I do is kind of measure it. I kind of make the butt cap just kind of come off the shaft a little bit, and then I kind of look where the club is going to end. Now this one, I've got some lines from the old tape on there. So what I'm going to do is look at this, and I'm going to probably just bring tape to about right here. So I'm going to be about, I don't know, 1/4 inch or so, but like below where the grip should end. And this is why I love the 2-inch tape. Try to get it on as straight as you can across the shaft, and then you can still use your hook blade. I usually have 2 knives, but you can still use your hook blade, and cut off with about 1/2 inch of tape left on the club. And then that way you can fold that over into the butt end of the shaft to let it to kind of add to the ease of the way the grip will come onto the shaft. So then I peel off the layer on the double-sided tape, and then we'll try to wrap this around so you don't get any creases or bubbles or anything like that. Kind of make it as tight as you can, and just fold it over. Make sure it's on tight, and then at the end, kind of fold this into the butt end of the shaft. That way this is rounded. It's going to hold some of the solvent, which is kind of a lubricant that will help that grip get onto the shaft. Get around the camera here. And then take your grip, and some people put grip down, logo up, whatever your preference is. What I like to do though is take this, put your finger over the hole in the butt end, take your solvent, pour it into the shaft or into the grip, just a little bit, doesn't have to be all the way full, anything like that. And then I also like to put a little bit of solvent on the tape as well. That way it kind of soaks in, give you the shaft or give the grip a little back and forth to make sure the solvent coats the whole inside, and then pour your solvent onto the tape. And then the important part is to kind of go quick. You want to basically kind of pinch the grip so it gets over the butt end of the shaft and then on in one kind of big motion. If you kind of hesitate and, while I put this thing on, while I'm talking, I put this thing on very not very unstraight. But but if you hesitate and kind of slowly get the thing on, you could get it to kind of like stop halfway through and not get all the way on the club. And if it sticks, it's tough to get it either all the way on or pull it off. You sometimes will lose the grip. Happens more kind of with cord grips. Those are a little more difficult because they don't have as much stretch. And when you grip the grip on, you don't want to yank it on because you want the grip to keep its natural shape and its natural size. Some people will try to what they call stretch the grip and pull it farther down. That way it kind of thins out the grip a little bit, makes it a little thinner. You can do that, but just try to get it on, let it keep its kind of natural shape, and then take your towel, kind of wipe up any excess solvent that may be on the grip. And once that's done, you pull it off, and you're pretty much all set. So once your grip's on, set it aside, let it sit for 15, 30 minutes, something like that, and that solvent will dry up and lock the grip in place. So that is a simple toss a grip on and be ready to go. Now there is ways you can build this up. You can build up different layers of tape. We'll get into that in a different episode. This is basically showing you just to cut off a grip, pull the tape, put some new tape on, put a grip on, and in about 30 minutes, you can head to the course, head to the range, and go hit this thing. So that's all there is to it. I mean, it really is that simple. Once you have done it once or twice, you'll become kind of a pro at it as well, and you'll be able to grip your clubs every year or however often you need it. So simple regrip, that's all you need. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Like I said, I'm going to do a bunch more. We're going to cover a wide range of topics and a wide range of different things you can do with your clubs. So follow along. Check us out on YouTube on GolfWRX, our main channel. Like and subscribe if you're watching there. Like I said, I'm going to do a bunch more of these. And also, if you have any ideas or comments or thoughts of topics I should definitely cover, hit me up on Instagram at Club Junkie Pod. So hopefully you enjoyed this, regripping, and we'll see you next time.